You can call her Mayhem or Mayday. Talk shit, she at your head. I ain't talking bald face. She don't fuck with baby daddies, fucking up the feng shui. Taking care of 4 kids, Sunday to Sunday. Flyer and round trips when she hit the runway. Comedy original, she do shit her own way. Made the stage her place, moving at her own pace. Fuck with her the wrong way, this gon' be a long day. She watch Basketball Wives, loving hip hop too. Born in 81, one day forward turned to 82. Funny, ratchet, and cute. She a winner, that's true. She don't even take L's, eating alphabet soup. Mayday, mayhem, 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 mayday, mayhem. She a cool black nerd, always been smart. Ever since she turned 8, wanted her name in the charts. Monty Python was a shit. Richard Pryor made a start. Red Fox and Eddie Murphy, inspiration to her art. Who you know got banned from the dollar store for throwing canned goods at a
we go. It's your girl, Mayday Mayhem, and we have a very special guest with us today. As y'all been seeing us doing hand gestures, throughout, we just saw my other host over here, the beautiful Miss Mary Angel.
Hey, y'all.
She said, hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
And we have our very special guest, a first-time author. She sold out within how long? What, 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Yeah, I tried to buy old girls, the book, and they told me no, but girl, it's on back order. We'll let you know when we get it. We have your money. Don't worry, it'll get here. Please give it up for, again, my good friend, first-time author, Miss Monique Fultz.
Yes, Miss Monique.
And she is the author of the book called Nowhere to Call Home. Now, I know about the book. Mary knew about the book.
I definitely know about the book.
Oh, yeah. We're trying to make sure you know about the book now.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's talk about this book.
1 sec. Okay.
Okay. Look, this is a free space, y'all. Let me get a drink. But yeah,
let's go.
Now, Monique, in this book, it's a lot to digest.
I know.
Again, this book talks about abuse in the DCFS system and the foster care system and how children are abused and, again, taken advantage of for resources of money or just out of pure spite and evil, and how you do have people that do come along and want to promote and help the foster care system and are good parents and are really good people. Mm-hmm. So we also talk about that in this book. So why don't you give us a little bit more? Because Camille is the main character of the book, like Camille. So, let's talk about Camille.
So, I was trying to look at the questions because it is an open forum.
Yes, it's an open forum. If you have any questions, please send them in. Please send them in.
But it talks about Camille first. She first gets molested at 8 years old. Mm-hmm. Her mom does not believe her. She gets beat for that. How abusive it was in the household, and how I had to run away, be homeless, live in the street, be hungry in order for the state to take me out of the household, and then go to foster homes who tried to kill me. Mm-hmm. And then trying to find myself after that, trying to find life after that, trying to find love after that, trying to raise my kids after that, just learning who I was after that, because you're lost, right? So
yeah,
right.
and you talk about that very vividly in your book. Yeah. And that's what I admire about it, because again, this is a subject that's not widely spoken about.
No.
And it's like a hush situation, mm-hmm. especially in the Black community.
Right.
Let's keep it 100.
Right.
It's a hush thing. We don't talk about it. We don't speak on it. It's like, don't talk, don't let Uncle Joe around the kids. Well, right. Why not? Well, he ain't right in the head. Instead of saying like, no, he needs to be in jail somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's a protection thing.
Even with you saying it the way that you just said,
you see what I'm saying?
A problem with phrasing. No, he needs to be in jail somewhere, but you can't say that he's walking around and have molested for your cousin.
Exactly. And that's why
this gets really, really deep, yeah. And mm-hmm. It gets really, really dark. Right. We were having a conversation, and it's hard to take a conversation like this that is about say for instance, your story. And I want to ask you something about something I just heard you say, but it's very easy to try to minimize how serious of a situation it is, mm-hmm. when you have someone that can have trouble in their home where they're being beat by a mother, mm-hmm. or the mother gets married, and now that stepfather is raping the child, right. Mm-hmm. And now the child is running away, and you see kids on the streets, and now you want to take them off the streets, put them in a foster care home, mm-hmm. And then that's even worse.
Right.
Yes.
So just like you just explained, in a very general account, and like you said, it gets so layers,
It's
layers.
Yeah.
Now you had mentioned Camille. You started off saying that Camille had experienced this, and then you used the word I. So can you explain to me Camille and the use of the name Camille, understanding that you are making an account of your story?
Well, I think like in memoirs, people get tired of reading them. They don't really want to
Mhm.
read about a person unless it's a famous person. So
Yes.
I tried to make it another person just basically telling my story.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make it easier for you?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So in that, making it easier for yourself to tell your story as if you were another person, would you say, because I know that there's so much to cover in this book and there's a lot of things that I had noticed, would you say that there's somewhat of a form of dissociation that has to happen in order to cope with a lot of the things that you've been through?
It does.
And how does that show up? How does that show up as a child? How does that show up growing into an adult?
How I am right now.
Okay.
If you have to like just stand outside and just look, it's like an out of body experience.
Yes.
So basically, you have to have this out of body experience just to cope because there's so many people coming at you. You're lying all the time. Monique do too much. She wants attention. And all of that.
And these were having read the book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to you say these things, but these very things are some of the things that you heard when you first spoke up about some of the first things that you've encountered.
Well, she when I first brought it to my mother, she took me to a prophet.
And
So, in our community, I think they let churches take over right or wrong in the household. So just because this prophet said, she's lying, don't believe her. She thought that was it. That was all. We don't need to go to the doctor. I don't need to get my daughter checked out. None of that. And I think I got beat for 25, 30 minutes. Literally.
And this is after coming home from which your mom felt like my child just told me this horrendous story.
Yeah.
Let's go talk to the prophet.
Yeah.
And then the prophet said she's lying.
Yeah.
Because she's supposed to see everything.
Because God told her I was lying.
Because God told her that a child, how old were you at the time? Was it 8 years
Yeah.
old? God told her that a child that was 8 years old was lying about her first sex offender.
Yeah.
Okay. So much to cover.
mm-hmm.
I'm just going to recommend right now, because with what you've endured and how you've invited us in on a conversation with the book Nowhere to Call Home,
Mm-hmm.
I recommend right now, and currently it is sold out after just only 3 weeks since it's released.
Absolutely.
But we're not going to be able to dive into everything that's in this book. So I'm just going to keep reiterating this. You guys, Nowhere to Call Home is a book that you want to read.
Mm-hmm.
It's recommended for 18 and over.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we feel that a teenager, 15 and
I
up.
say 15. I would say I would even maybe sometimes go as 14 because again, like when we're talking,
14-year-old, you're
because
eighth
you
grade.
have some of these kids that are going through this at home, and again, like in your book, the teacher called DCFS.
Yeah.
And they told them that they were coming, and they cleaned you up, even though you had a blister on your face. Yeah. And they allowed you to stay, and you were still so polite. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Can I get your glass?
And it was
of water?
A fresh blister.
It was fresh, and you was told that you fell off a bike, and it's like, it's like again like the battered women syndrome, where I just ran into a doorknob. It's come so like natural that you're protecting the person that's harming you, but again, you don't have a choice because that's your mom.
Right.
You don't know what else to do. That's your mom.
Right.
So,
what made you write this?
Exactly.
I think that a lot of stuff is hidden about what happens to little girls. I think that when girls are subjected to molestation or whatever they're subjected to at such a young age, and they start acting out when they're teenagers, that the world looks at them differently. And I experienced that a lot.
Different like how?
She's fast.
Okay.
She's out there. Don't be around her. She's homeless. She's sleeping with everybody. You know.
And what would acting out? What would acting out look like? If one person could assume that, oh, this person is just fast and she sleeps with everyone, what would acting out really look like? What are the signs that one could tell? What are we looking for when we look for a child that may be enduring a level of abuse or molestation or rape, neglect, being malnutrition? Like what are the signs that we're looking for? Because you said, oh, she's fast, but there were accounts when you weren't even able to take a shower. You were in the same clothes for days in, days out.
Exactly.
And what that looked like with you walking on the street and being offered money to do sexual acts. Yeah. You weren't in what would be considered fast clothes.
No.
You were on purpose placed in. I read the book.
Oh, I noticed.
We read it.
I'm like, you're pointing out everything.
I read your book, and that I'm not even like scraping the surface. You guys, read this book. It's very powerful.
And I also want to piggyback on that, because
what are the signs?
I'm thinking, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because even in your book, you spoke about you wore your mother's dress to school.
Yeah.
I would think that probably was a sign that something was wrong, because she's dressed and over sexualized, and she didn't know it. You know, she didn't understand. She just wanted to look pretty like mom. You know, she didn't know. But
and this was after days of not wearing anything that made you feel like.
I think this was before, because I didn't really start running until she got married.
Mm-hmm.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So so let's backtrack just a little bit. Tell us how we can, instead of accusing a child of being one way, actually pick up signs of there's something actually wrong. What would be the signs that we would see in a child?
They smoke a lot, drinking a lot, because of course you're trying to mask the pain, right?
Absolutely.
So changing boyfriends because you just can't settle down. Just the way they dress. Always outside, never want to go home because I never wanted to go home. Yeah,
right.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
And they're always outside.
And always outside.
Even
outside
if it's cold,
with friends.
in a car with friends, anywhere. Trying to spend a night at a friend's house. They never go home. That's the biggest thing. They never want to go home. Because why would you?
Why would you want to go home? And you said smoking, you said drinking. Now today, smoking and drinking, which is super celebrated in the music, and it's actually cool to be in dresses and stuff when you have songs like WAP, say for instance, where you have music that's over like basically, you know, your pussy is power type of mentality, right? And it's celebrated on a whole other level. Like you had your Little Kims. Right? Before then, you had, I don't know, who was you pin in the 70s, or you know, like there was always a bombshell. There was always a bombshell.
Why can't laugh at me like that?
But you always had some level of the media that was pushing the sexuality of women, whether it was being done a lot, like in the 90s, a lot of the guys were doing it. That's when you really started to see the women dancing in the videos. But now it's the women doing it even more. So when you have that type of influence in society today, you may come from a great home, not having any other issues, and still walking out the house smoking because it's celebrated, drinking because it's celebrated, putting on, you know,
because we live in a different era.
So how do you then
differentiate? Right.
I would just say they never want to go home.
Really pay attention to the fact that they never want to go home. So this memoir, is it safe to call it a memoir?
Okay.
That you've written, it shows a pattern of first leaving your home, then an emergency, what was the term? Emergency, like you had to, it was an emergency
shelter
where someone is like, okay, we got to put this child.
Yeah.
And so now you're in the hands of foster care, and then you're back at the home.
Yeah.
And then foster. So in this pattern of going back and forth, explain to us what was DCFS hand in that.
Right.
Like in that bridge point of you going from home to foster care, from home to foster care.
Well, I had to like literally stay in the street because they wouldn't take me. So I was like,
Who's they?
DCFS. So I was like, okay, I'm literally gonna die. So I just walked the street, and I was in a hospital at the time. I roamed the hospital for like 2 weeks straight. And the security guard used to feed me every day, bring me Tupperware bowls, and I would just walk up and down. And then the nurse noticed that I had the same clothes on every day. So she called DCFS, and I thought that they would take me back home because literally they wouldn't take me in the first place. So I ran to the bus station, doing the same thing. Another person was feeding me every day. His wife was making me like big Tupperware bowls of food.
Do you think they were aware?
I think he was.
Okay.
Yeah, he had to know.
They had to know.
Yeah.
And they was just
it's for her to make me food every day. I snuck on a bus to Milwaukee. I forgot where I went. And they called my mom and told her that I was already gone for maybe 3-4 weeks. I was gone for a long time. And
wow, how old were you at this time?
10.
And DCFS would not take you?
They took me then because she said she didn't want me.
But before that, they would not. And you were under 10.
Yeah.
10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
On the bus.
Eating from hand to mouth.
Hand to mouth.
On your own.
For about 4 weeks.
Yeah, it was a while.
10 years old on the street.
10,
4
11,
weeks.
10, 11.
Anybody
can
just snatch you. You think about your average 10 year. You're in what grade at 10?
I don't remember. I may be off on some of the timelines because
I'm just trying to think about little cousins or little.
But it was around that time because I didn't get admitted into the group home until I was 11. So everything else happened under the age of 11, 12. So going down. So I was very young.
Oh wow! So
even running away from home.
Yeah. When you went to horses, because the horses played a pivotal point. Because
that was when I ran to Milwaukee.
Okay, because them horses, like again in that book, it played a very pivotal point because you went back to a bad place and you said the horses took you to a serene place, a calm place,
okay,
a quiet place.
So just because our audience members, our listeners, has not read this yet,
which y'all need to hurry up and get it. Right?
It's called Nowhere to Call Home, and you're getting a very abbreviated storyline from our author Monique here today. But let's catch them up briefly because we just jumped to the horses, which is one of my favorite
because
of your story.
That's mine too.
So really quickly here, as precise as we can possibly be for the viewers and the listeners. What made you run away from home in the first place?
The beatings were just so bad, and
these beatings were from
my mom.
Okay,
they were bad, and the molestation and rape from her husband was horrible. And then I was getting raped from her babysitter from when I was like 8 for a while.
Okay.
So just all of that, it was just like I just couldn't stay home.
And so now, the first foster home that you lived in had horses involved.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I went there, it was husband and wife, so I know I went in their house so angry, and I didn't want to talk. They took me in the room. She tried to cook. She cooked this really big meal, and I stayed upstairs and I didn't eat. So I came down for breakfast. I still didn't eat. And her husband was like, he came and he sat and he was just like, "It's okay." And I know I jumped away from him.
You ready to
touch could be uncomfortable. I was like,
okay, we have another male.
Yeah. Right. I would have been afraid too. Like, oh God, like because of the situations you've been in. Like I would have been afraid of males also.
So he's like, come with me. and I'll never forget I peed myself.
Mhm.
And so he just looked like, go change your clothes and let's go. And I met him in the truck, and the barn wasn't far. So we drove to the barn, and I'm like,
By
what
yourself with him?
Yeah. So I'm in the car the whole time. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what's about to happen? And he drives me to the barn, and all these horses are in there. So I don't think I've ever seen a horse because we never got to go on like outings to see horses and stuff like that. So I'm like, why is he in a barn? And he gives me this brush, and he's like, he tells me the horse's names, and he's like, you need to brush this horse until you're no longer angry. Just let it all out. Just brush them. And I'm like,
what? Right. and that's scary because it's like
they're huge.
It's an act of kindness too, in the same sense. Like you want me to what? Brush your horse? Like
I'm thinking about the fact that you're a very young child.
Exactly.
About what? Yay high.
Yeah.
And you have this huge animal, this man that you barely know, telling you to brush your horse. I can only imagine where your head.
Yeah, I was like,
because these are some huge beasts. I love horses, but at the same time, I'm afraid every single time I'm in the presence of one. So it's like just the picture of that is like, wow, that must have been one of those outer body experiences for you.
He left me there.
And he left you there. He closed the door.
Yep.
And drove off
like,
and let you have at it.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
And you did.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped you.
Yeah.
You brushed till this day.
Yeah, I was in there screaming and everything, and I think they were.
They probably heard you.
Yeah,
they were like, that girl going crazy.
I think I kind of spooked them a little bit. You like, this little girl's in here screaming, but they didn't spook too much. I think they realized that I was a child. So,
right, they knew.
Yeah.
So the horses, okay.
Horses are kindred spirits.
Yeah,
they
kindred
know.
spirits, and then the idea of becoming this horse whisperer, like these horses became your friends, and you had a bond.
Yeah.
So did this become routine, like a daily routine for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've had an experience with horse therapy, and I've been in an arena where people will come and paint the horses just for relaxation. And so I know that horses and horse therapy, it's a real thing. A lot of
animal therapy is a real
animal therapy is a real thing. So I love that I saw that and that you were introduced to that as a child. Then the story turns.
And that was your safe place. And that was literally your safe place.
Yeah, I loved it there.
I'm thinking about when I first cleaned the barn, and I really was shoveling caca. And
manure, doo-doo for y'all out there listening.
But it was so relaxing. It was so relaxing. I was like, ain't this about I said, I'm over here like metaphorically, like I'm cleaning up, but metaphorically, it's like I'm cleaning up in my life as well. And it was just that.
And you were happy just shoveling it.
And some stinky SHIT. Happy when there's stinky SHIT going around.
Yes.
And that's a metaphor for life too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you small and got big things happening and you brushing that.
Yeah.
Away.
He probably saved my life.
The hurt.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
like,
I think he did.
Do you think that helped save your life and your
he
sanity?
Did. Yeah, he did.
And then the story turns.
Yeah.
Because you got picked up by DCFS.
Yeah, for some reason, I think DCFS has a problem with, they give the mother time to get herself together. So the mother can say, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I want my kid back.
And how long is that supposed to take exactly if you were only there for how long?
3 weeks.
You were there for 3 weeks and she got herself together.
Yeah, I don't know what she did, or she said, I want my daughter back, but they're like, they are firm believers of keeping a family together.
Yeah, they're firm believers of not separating
Stay with your mom.
The mother from the parent, even though the mother will do harm and they give them classes over and over and over classes. Like you have to take parenting classes on how to properly chastise your children. You don't storm into a wall or anything like that. No, if timeout means, in the corner. That doesn't mean in the corner with a bag of rice on your knees. Yeah, as you see, I read the book. Again, I read the book. That's not discipline. That's still abuse.
Yeah.
And they give them classes, but again, they only take this class because it means to an end. Because again, once I take these classes, I can get my child back. I can get the benefits back that I was getting.
Yeah.
I can get my link. Well, back then, we had food stamps. I get my food stamps back. I can get my cash back. I can get back to that monthly income. But again, it's a means to an end. I was missing that check for 3 weeks. I thought I was cool, but I'm missing that check.
So now I want my child back.
I want my kid back now. I'll take whatever classes, as long as I get my kid back and I get that check back.
Yeah.
So that's the vicious cycle. Instead of sifting out that, no, you're just doing this, of course, for a check. Because again, 19 years in one case.
You were happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were happy for 3 weeks. You had a moment to scream
Mm-hmm.
and find a place of peace.
Yes.
And you were brought back home, and you said DCFS has a problem with this system of the parent gets it together
Mm-hmm.
and then they can get their child back.
Yeah.
So we need to put a microscope on that loophole.
Yes.
Can I read just a small snippet of your story?
Sure.
Y'all did.
Y'all, my homegirl over here, Murray, she did her homework like
Did some homework.
we weren't playing. I told you we weren't
because
playing.
this is really important, and we like to make light of these things. I'm gonna find it here. You guys can continue to speak. Let me find it. Because it just blew my mind. Because again, what you will find when you read Nowhere to Call Home is that there is a pattern.
It's a pattern, exactly. It's a pattern where Camille is safe, and then she's taken from safety and put in a worse situation.
Yeah, when they drove up, I was like,
What y'all doing here? Like, what you doing here? Because they had even put you in school, correct?
yeah.
You wasn't going.
You didn't go back to school. So just to highlight a little bit of the pattern that we see in the story of Camille of running away from home, being put into the hands of DCFS to a foster care, to some form of foster care, being taken back home, and then the cycle happening over again. The very first time that Camille was brought back home after she had spent the time with the horses, we see when we got outside the police station, Mama instantly started banging my head against the brick wall all the way down the sidewalk. My head was hurting so bad, I was no longer able to hear as blood ran down my face. I'm gonna pass a little bit. All the peace and happiness I had were crushed. I was back to the web of the destroyer, back to hell. When I got home that night, my stepfather comes creeping in the room where I was sleeping. And then I'll leave the rest up to you guys
To
actually
read.
purchasing the book. But immediately,
right back into hell.
this was immediately.
Yeah.
And you had to survive all over again.
Yep. Yeah.
You were not the only child in this home. You had siblings.
Yes.
And you were the eldest. You were the oldest of your siblings.
Yes.
What was it like to come back home? You were 10 years old. And you were the oldest.
Yeah.
What was it like to come back home?
Sorry. We can keep
No,
going.
you're fine. What was it like to come back home to your siblings and to this nightmare of a place that you ran away from? You thought you got away.
I did miss my siblings. I was scared. I left instantly. I found the quickest way that I could run away again, thinking that they would take me back.
Right.
Thinking that
The DCFS will take you back.
Yeah,
Okay.
but they
And
did take me back. But the next foster home, they put me in a different foster home. They won't take you back to where they.
to the last one.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why
Why
would
wouldn't
you
they
think
take you
that?
back? And
That's a problem
that
as
was
well.
a great place where you were thriving. You were in school. You were growing. Why wouldn't they take you back to that home where you were
They don't
thriving?
do that. They
So you
bounce
said that's
around.
a problem as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
How do you? Okay, so talk to us about, because we're largely largely of the reason why you wrote this was so that you can expose the loopholes in the system
Right.
and where they
Yes.
can get better.
Right.
So we already know that they need to take a look at this idea of parents getting themselves together and to take the child back.
Right.
Mhm.
And now we're looking at, I was here at a place that was great for me, and now you're bouncing me to another place. So the bouncing back and forth between several different foster homes.
Right.
Why won't you put me back where I was happy?
Right.
Explain to us what can be done about that, or what kind of ideas do you have for that?
They can give the previous foster parents the option to say, she's back in the system, do you want them back?
And
Right.
you're saying that option at this point
A lot of
does not
foster parents
exist?
complain that they don't get that option.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's painful.
And I'm sure because they've grown attached to these children and they grown, a part of this child's life, and to be snatched away, it has a bearing on the foster parents too, because they know what's happening, and now they're wondering what happened to this kid. Like, where is this
And now
kid?
I can't even.
And now I can't contact, because are you allowed to contact the foster parents?
I talk to my mom all the time. Well, I don't talk to her all the time. I know where she's at.
Right.
Mhm, mhm.
But no, not all of them.
Oh, so once you're taken from that household, you're not even allowed to even really talk to them after that?
No, they
Or-
did make sure I have a horse though. They did find me to make sure I had Juliet.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So they,
Because they had 6 horses on their
Yeah.
farm.
That's amazing. Good for them.
Yeah.
So every foster care home is not like that of what you've experienced the first time, where there were horses and they cared about you eating and
no.
you
Thriving.
go into thriving.
Mhm.
So now you go into another foster care home and like night and day.
Yeah.
Night looks like what? What would you say night looks like? It's read the book.
Like,
Know
y'all
where
gotta
to
get
call
this
home.
book. Like,
But please take us through what we have day, metaphorically speaking, the sunshine, foster
yeah.
care parents, and now you have the
Night.
nightmare foster care parents. So what does that look like in your story?
Well, with the first foster care home, she was cooking me huge breakfasts. I was able to go outside, eat lunch, sit in the grass, play with the horses. I go to the second foster home and they were so nice and they were like, oh, call me mom, we gotta get you some clothes, I'll make sure you eat, I know you're sleepy, this is your bed, we're gonna change the sheets for you, whatever you like. And then when DCFS leaves, her voice tone changed instantly and she's like, follow me. And I'm like, what? And we go in the basement and she has this dark room and she was like, get in there. Nothing. There's no bed, there's no toilet, just close the door, just all
So
four
again,
walls.
so, and see, this makes me angry because it brings back that system, that vicious cycle of, you're only doing this for money.
Yeah.
You're only doing this for money.
Yeah.
And they presented you as like, we're gonna make her nice, and then threw you in a basement.
Like a rat in a cage.
Yeah.
Because the door was locked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't lock the door originally. I had came out and I think I was hungry and her husband went off. She was yelling and screaming and then I think he burned me with cigarettes. And then he took some lighter fluid and like put it all over my head and was about to set me on fire. And they were like, you need to get in there, you can't leave back out. And they were like lowering buckets. I will never forget, from the ceiling for me to use the bathroom.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And she would lower food down there. I got really sick. They had
I would imagine.
no blanket. It was really, I had to sleep on the floor. It was really bad. And that
You spoke of rats.
Mhm.
Yeah. That messed me up really bad because I slept on the floor when I was grown for years. I had a big, huge, puffy, queen size bed and I would not sleep in it. I was so used to the
Laying
floor.
on the floor.
Yeah.
And remind us, how old were you at this time that you're in your second experience with
It was like a year apart, not even a year apart. It was some months.
So you're still like 10, 11.
Yeah, up in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And you were yanked out.
Yeah.
To go back home.
Yeah.
Again.
Now, one of the things, and the cycle, you point
It
out
just
the
keeps
cycle, and
going.
I'm not trying to give everyone everything. Please, you guys, pick up the
What happened?
That may be able to get saved, so make sure you save it.
It's uploading.
Okay, so let it upload, and that way you at least have it. And if you need to start the second part,
We're gonna have to start the second part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like commercial break.
We're gonna break a brief commercial break. We'll be right back.